My parents dumped my pregnant sister-in-law in my apartment and said, "She's your problem now." I refused and pressed the button that blew their entire game apart. My name's Jonah, I'm 27, male, and for the first time in my entire life I thought I had peace. My own one-bedroom apartment finally decorated the way I wanted. Plants on the windowsill. A second-hand couch I'd hauled up 3 flights of stairs by myself, but it was mine. Quiet evenings where the only sound was whatever music I felt like. No chaos, no drama, no constant noise of my family's problems bleeding into my life. That lasted about 6 months. The day everything blew up started normal. I was home from work, reheating leftovers, scrolling on my phone when I heard pounding on my door. Not a knock. Pounding. I opened it and there was my mom, my dad, and my brother Clint, standing there with Stephanie, his wife who was 7 months pregnant and looking exhausted. Before I could even ask what the hell was going on, my dad pushed past me carrying bags. My mom announced, "We're tired of her, Jonah. She's your problem now." I swear I thought it was a joke. I laughed at first, like, "Ha ha, good one." Except no one laughed back. Clint just stood there, arms crossed, not meeting my eyes, while my mom plopped a suitcase onto my rug. Stephanie gave me the weird little apologetic smile, like she was embarrassed, but she didn't move to stop them either. "Excuse me," I finally said. "You have space," Mom said like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You live alone, don't you? Stephanie needs support. She's too much for us to handle right now. You'll do it." I looked at Clint, my older brother, the guy who was supposed to be stepping up for his own wife. He didn't even open his mouth, just stared at his shoes like a sulky teenager. I felt something in me snap. 6 months of peace, gone in 1 second. My home, the only place I finally felt like myself, being treated like a dumping ground. "No," I said, calm but sharp. "She's not living here." The room froze. My mom blinked at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. Dad scoffed. Clint muttered something under his breath about me being selfish. Stephanie shifted uncomfortably like she wanted to disappear. "Jonah!" Mom snapped, her voice rising. "Don't be dramatic. She's family. You'll take care of her. End of discussion." I could feel my chest tightening, my pulse pounding in my ears. That old familiar feeling of being cornered by them, of never being allowed to say no. Except this time, I wasn't a kid anymore. This was my place, my rules. So I pulled out my phone, dialed, and said the 5 words that made my mom's jaw hit the floor. "I'd like to report trespassers." The silence before the sirens was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. The cops showed up faster than I expected. 2 officers, 1 male and 1 female, standing in the hallway with that mix of calm authority and mild irritation. You see when they're not sure if this call is going to be paperwork or a fistfight. My mom immediately rushed toward them, hands flailing, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Officer, thank God you're here. My son is confused. He doesn't understand family responsibility. His poor sister-in-law is pregnant and he's refusing to let her in. I swear, if there was an Olympic sport for weaponized guilt, my mom would have taken gold." The female officer looked at me. "Sir, what's going on?" I handed her my phone. The screen was open to the text my mom had sent me earlier that day. "She's your problem now." My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. "This is my apartment. I never gave permission for them to be here. They showed up with bags, trying to dump my brother's wife on me. I want them to leave." The male officer turned to my dad. "Sir, do you live here?" Dad puffed his chest. No, but this is family. He can't just kick us out. Actually, the officer cut in, his tone sharp now. He can. This is his residence. If you're here without his consent, it's trespassing. Stephanie looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. She whispered, "Maybe we should just go." But Clint snapped, his voice cracking like a teenager again. "She's pregnant! He's abandoning her! He's a selfish bastard who doesn't care about family." That one hit me hard. For a split second, my chest clenched. Clint had always been the golden child, the one Mom bent over backwards for. I used to look up to him. And now he was glaring at me like I was a stranger, spitting words like I was some villain in his melodrama. The female cop raised a hand. "Enough. Sir, if you'd like, we can issue a formal trespass warning. If they return without your permission, they can be arrested." I nodded, my throat tight but firm. "Yes, please." Mom gasped like I'd just stabbed her in the heart. "Jonah, how dare you bring strangers into this, after everything we've done for you?" "Done for me?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "Like what, Mom? Dumping problems on me because Clint won't grow up? Pretending my apartment is your storage unit?" Her mouth opened and closed, but the cops didn't give her time to recover. They herded my family toward the hallway. Clint tried to mutter one last insult under his breath, but the officer's glare shut him up, and just like that they were gone. The door closed, the lock clicked, and I swear for the first time in years, I felt taller. My hands were still shaking, my stomach knotted, but my apartment was mine again. Except, of course, the peace didn't last. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing, calls from Mom, from Clint, even from aunts I hadn't spoken to in months. The family machine was already spinning up, and I had a sinking feeling there was only the opening round. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. I'll feature the best one in the next video. By the next morning, it was like my phone had turned into a grenade. Missed calls, stacked on missed calls, and the texts, they were vicious. Mom's first. "I can't believe you'd humiliate us like that in front of the police. You've broken this family." Then Clint. "You endangered Stephanie. She's pregnant, and you put her at risk by throwing her out. If something happens to her, it's on you." And then the kicker. My Aunt Marlene, who I hadn't spoken to since Christmas 3 years ago. "I heard you threw a pregnant woman out into the street. How could you?" It didn't take a genius to figure out what happened. Mom had spun the story before the elevator doors even closed the night before. And she'd done it in classic Mom fashion. Half lies, half omissions, with just enough dramatic flair to make me look like the villain. She painted it as if poor Stephanie, the helpless wife, had been begging for shelter, while heartless Jonah slammed the door in her face. No mention of her actual text, "She's your problem now." No mention of Clint standing there, arms crossed like a coward. Just me, the selfish son who didn't care about family. For a few hours I let them rage. My instinct was to stay silent, to hide. But then I scrolled back through that text one more time. That single sentence that Mom had fired off without even thinking. And I realized something. I didn't have to play defense. I had the receipt. So when another cousin messaged me, "Is it true you kicked Stephanie out while she's pregnant?" I didn't bother arguing. I just screenshotted Mom's text and sent it. The reaction was instant. Wait, she actually said that? Dude, that changes everything. Why didn't she just admit Clint and Stephanie needed help instead of dumping her on you? By the end of the day, the outrage fizzled. Nobody was praising me, sure, but the fire Mom tried to star wasn't catching. The narrative cracked the second they saw her own words. But just when I thought maybe, I'd stopped the bleeding, I noticed something strange. I went to grab the spare key I kept in a little dish by the door. The one I'd given Mom ages ago, back when I was too trusting. It wasn't there. My stomach dropped. I tore through the dish, the counter, the junk drawer. Nothing. The key was gone, and I didn't need Sherlock Holmes to figure out who had it. That night I barely slept. Every creak in the hallway sounded like footsteps. Every buzz of the elevator made me tense. I ended up sitting on the couch, bat in hand, watching the door like it might sprout claws. By the next afternoon I'd had enough. I called the locksmith, new locks, new keys. My place was secure again, and thank God I did. Because what happened that evening proved I wasn't paranoid. It was almost midnight when I heard it, the faint scrape of metal against metal. At first I thought it was just the pipes, or maybe someone fumbling with their own door down the hall. But then came the unmistakable sound of a key sliding into a lock. My lock. Except the door didn't open. The new lock I'd had installed that morning held strong. I froze, adrenaline spiking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I moved slowly toward the door and looked through the peephole. There they were. Clint, my brother, hunched and whispering harshly to Stephanie, who looked pale and uncomfortable in the dim hallway light. He twisted the old key again and again, frustration mounting, his voice rising. "Why the hell isn't it working? Mom said this would work." Stephanie's hand rubbed her stomach nervously. "Clint, this is crazy. Maybe he changed the locks. We should just—" "Shut up," Clint snapped, shoving the key harder. That was it. My blood boiled. First they tried to dump Stephanie on me like I was some kind of babysitter for their bad choices. Then they smeared my name to the whole family. And now they were breaking into my home in the middle of the night. I yanked the door open so fast Clint nearly fell forward into the apartment. His face went slack like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Stephanie gasped and took a step back. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I barked, louder than I meant. Clint stammered. We just needed a place for her tonight. She's pregnant, Jonah. You can't seriously expect us to—" "Breaking in isn't asking," I cut him off, holding up the bent key he was still clutching. "This isn't your home. She is your wife. She is your responsibility, not mine." Stephanie looked like she wanted to cry. Her eyes darted between us, guilt and shame written all over her face. "But Clint?" He doubled down, his voice rising until it echoed down the hallway. "You're heartless. You'd let your own family sleep in the streets? You're pathetic, Jonah. You'll regret this." I took a deep breath, stepped back into my apartment, and pointed at the hallway. "Leave. Now. Or I call the cops again." For a moment Clint just glared at me, his jaw tight, his whole body shaking with rage. But when I reached for my phone, he finally snapped. He threw the useless key onto the floor and stormed off, muttering curses. Stephanie followed, head down, whispering something I couldn't catch. I shut the door and leaned against it, shaking. My whole body was buzzing with adrenaline and disgust. They hadn't just crossed a line. They'd bulldozed through it. The next morning I told my landlord everything. To my surprise, he backed me up without hesitation. "Don't worry," he said, scribbling notes into a file. "If they come back, we'll handle it. Nobody's forcing their way into my building." It felt like a small win, but I knew my family. Clint wasn't going to let this go. And Mom? She doubled down until she made this mess 10 times worse. I just didn't realize how fast she'd escalate, or how absurd it would get. Update. Wow. I didn't expect my first post to blow up the way it did. Honestly, I thought maybe a dozen people would read it. Tell me I wasn't crazy, and that'd be the end of it. Instead, my phone's been buzzing with notifications non-stop. I've read through as many comments as I can, and I have to say, thank you. Seriously. Some of you were hilarious. Whoever said change the locks yesterday deserves a medal because, yup, that's exactly what I did. And thank God. Because if I hadn't, Clint and Stephanie would be sitting in my living room right now, probably rearranging my furniture. And to the person who said I should start charging rent if they try again, tempting. A few people DM'd me telling me I was heartless for not letting a pregnant woman stay. Look, I get it. On paper, it sounds bad. But here's the reality. Stephanie isn't some random victim. She knew what was happening when my parents dumped her at my door. She didn't resist, didn't say no, just went along with it. And Clint? He's a grown man, older than me, who still acts like he's 15 and the world owes him. I'm done carrying that. And for the record, I didn't throw anyone onto the street. They had a car. They had options. What they wanted was the easy option, me. Here's the latest. After I caught them trying to sneak back in, I told my landlord everything. He's completely on my side. Even wrote up a note that anyone without my written permission is trespassing. That's in the file now. If Clint or my parents try again, it's game over. But of course, my family can't let it go. Last night, Mom called me 6 times in a row. When I finally picked up, she was screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. You're destroying this family. You're leaving a pregnant woman homeless. You think you're so perfect with your little apartment. Well, we'll see what Child Protective Services says when they find out you're refusing to care for your brother's wife and baby. Yep, you read that, right? My mom actually threatened me with CPS. Against me. And this morning, someone actually did file a CPS report saying Stephanie was living with me in unsafe conditions. 2 caseworkers showed up at my door. I was stunned, but then I just showed them everything. The police report from the trespassing, the text from Mom, even the landlord's letter. They took one look and said, "Looks like someone's playing games. Sorry you're dealing with this." Then they left. I felt like collapsing from relief, but also rage, because that was the line. You don't mess with the law like that. You don't try to drag me into an investigation just because I won't bend to your control. So, yeah. I think it's time to stop playing defense. I've got screenshots, I've got police reports, and I've got every manipulative text they've sent. My family wants a war? Fine. I'll give them one. After the CPS stunt, something inside me clicked. I'd spent years tiptoeing around my family's chaos, always the one to de-escalate, to smooth things over. But not anymore. They wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. I'd hand the entire family a movie reel of the truth. I sat at my desk that night, laptop open, phone buzzing with more angry texts from Mom. I ignored them. Instead, I started compiling screenshots of every manipulative message, from "she's your problem now" to Clint's meltdown about me being selfish, the police report where the officers sided with me and told them to leave, the landlord's note about trespassing, and even the CPS visit log. By the time I was done, I had a digital case file that looked like something out of a courtroom drama. Except this wasn't for a judge. It was for the dozens of aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends my mom loved to weaponize. Subject line: since everyone's heard Mom's version, here's mine, with receipts. I attach everything. Wrote a calm but firm message explaining exactly what happened step by step. No extra emotion, no name calling, just the facts. I even highlighted the part where my mom literally texted me, "She's your problem now." Then I hit send. The fallout was immediate. Within an hour, my cousin Julia texted me, "Holy crap, Jonah. I can't believe they did this. I'm so sorry." Another uncle replied all to the chain, blunt as hell. "Grace and Robert, my parents, you should be ashamed. Dumping your son's wife like that, threatening CPS, unforgivable." And then silence. From Mom, from Dad, from Clint, not a single word. The family grapevine, usually buzzing like a hornet's nest, went dead quiet. For the first time, I felt something I'd never felt in a family conflict. Power. They couldn't twist this anymore. Their favorite tactic, gossip, was turned against them, and it burned. But of course, Clint couldn't stay quiet for long. 2 days later, he showed up in my inbox with this pathetic attempt at guilt. "Bro, you didn't have to nuke us like that. Stephanie's stressed enough already. You're ruining our reputation with the family." I stared at the screen, then typed back one sentence. "You ruined it yourselves." And I left it at that. What I didn't know yet, what explained so much of their desperation, was that Clint and Stephanie weren't just trying to offload responsibility. They were hiding a much bigger problem. They'd been evicted. And soon the truth was going to spill out in the ugliest way possible. Update 2. So, remember when I said I felt powerful after sending that family-wide email? Yeah. That lasted about 48 hours. The reactions were wild. Half my extended family actually thanked me for finally showing proof of what Mom and Clint had been pulling for years. One of my uncles even called me to say, "Kid, I always knew your parents were dramatic, but this is straight up deranged." That felt good. But then came the other half. The ones who didn't want to take sides. You know the type. "Family is messy, Jonah. Maybe you should have handled it privately." Privately? After they had tried to file a false CPS report on me? Miss me with that keep it in the family crap. Still, I thought maybe the storm had passed. Until yesterday. Turns out Clint and Stephanie hadn't just been trying to dump her on me for convenience. They'd been evicted from their apartment. 2 months of unpaid rent, ignored warnings, the whole deal. Instead of telling anyone, they tried to stash Stephanie with me whilst Clint figured things out. Translation. Mooched off me until I cracked. I found out because my cousin, the same Julia who texted me earlier, forwarded me a Facebook post from Stephanie's mom. It said something like, "Glad to have my daughter back home after such a rough patch. Sometimes pride has to take a back seat. Family always finds a way." That's when the puzzle pieces locked together. The desperation, the midnight key stunt, even the CPS nonsense. They were cornered, and I was their escape plan. But here's where it gets even more absurd. Stephanie gave birth last week, a baby girl. And instead of quietly handling it, my mom blasted out this dramatic all-caps email to everyone in the family. "Our daughter has given us a beautiful granddaughter. Welcome, baby Grace." Our daughter, as in Stephanie. As if Clint wasn't even in the equation. As if I should be celebrating like this was somehow my responsibility now. Then came the kicker. Mom followed it up with, "Jonah, since you have the most space, we'd love for you to host a welcome home gathering for the baby. It would mean so much to the family." I didn't respond. Didn't even type a draft. Just stared at the screen and laughed so hard I scared my neighbor's cat through the wall. And right on cue, Clint slid into my messages again. This time begging, Bro, please, Stephanie's exhausted. I'm trying my best. We just need a little help with money. You've always been like a second mom to me. A second mom? I nearly threw my phone across the room. So, yeah, the silence after my email blast wasn't peace. It was them regrouping. And now they're back, trying to shove a baby into the middle of their mess like it's a ticket to guilt me into submission. But I'll say this now. I am not bending. Not for Clint. Not for Mom. Not even for a newborn I had no part in bringing into this world. If anything, the way they're trying to drag me in makes me more determined than ever to stay out. After that ridiculous welcome baby email and Clint's pathetic second mom message, I went radio silent. No replies, no explanations, nothing. Just silence. At first, they doubled down. Mom showed up at my apartment one afternoon with Dad in tow. And the baby. I didn't even open the door. I just stood quietly in the kitchen, listening as she knocked and then banged, then launched into her greatest hits. Jonah, don't punish an innocent child. Your brother is drowning. You're supposed to help him. Family is all we have, and you're abandoning yours. Her voice cracked at the end, but I still didn't move. Eventually, they left. I watched from the peephole as Clint shuffled behind her, pushing the stroller, looking like a ghost. That was the last time they tried to physically invade my space. Over the next few weeks, word spread fast. My email blast had already shifted the family narrative, but once the eviction came out, the gossip storm turned ugly. Everyone finally connected the dots. Mom and Dad had been covering for Clint for years, and now they were dragging a newborn into their chaos. The sympathy dried up overnight. Clint lost his job soon after. Apparently his boss had been tolerating endless excuses about family emergencies, but showing up late 3 times in a week with no explanation was the last straw. Stephanie, tired and postpartum, packed her things and moved back in with her mom full-time. Rumors trickled down through cousins. She'd been telling people she was sick of raising 2 kids, one in diapers, one named Clint. Mom tried one last stunt. She sent out another dramatic family-wide message. Pray for our family during this difficult time. We've been betrayed and abandoned, but we remain strong. Except this time nobody replied. Not a single like. Not a single comment. Silence. And for me, my apartment stayed mine. My plants kept growing. I started sleeping through the night again without clutching a baseball bat or jumping at every sound in the hallway. One evening, sitting on that beat-up couch, I carried up 3 flights of stairs. I realized something. Peace wasn't just about being alone. It was about choosing what chaos I let through my door. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself over my family's endless black hole of need. And yeah, they hated me for it. They still do. But they can scream into the void all they want, because the door stays locked. The chaos isn't mine anymore. And God, it feels good. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and like it. You can also watch more shocking stories in the playlist.